Thank y'all so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. For everybody out there that doesn't know these two, they are the organizers behind Women in Streaming Media. So I guess to kick us off, why don't you tell us about how the organization works? Who runs this thing?
Cool. Well, yeah. So Women in Streaming Media, we started about 2 years ago. And we really wanted to create a place where other women in the industry could meet and connect and network with each other. Our aspiration is to start creating some educational segments that can help our membership understand more about streaming technologies and learn different parts of the industry where they might be interested and continuing to evolve in their career. As part of networking, it's also about making sure that they're able to network with everyone in the industry, from not only other women in our membership, but also leaders from across other companies and organizations. And I've been really happy with how that's been going so far. Our ability to get women and our voices heard on panels and inside of conferences. It's been a really great way to give us some more visibility in this space. And then lastly, it's around creating a place for women to go and find support and mentorship and career advancement. And we're entering into our third cohort of mentorship, our mentorship program, heading into January of 2021. And it's really about helping participants kind of identify and figure out a path for how they want to take their career. But it's funny, so I'm in the mentorship program this year too, and I'm a mentor, and I have a mentee, and it's been really interesting. She's been going through a job change and slightly a bit of an industry change, and there's been a lot of things that I've been able to apply when I look at finding candidates and working with other people in our team as well. So I'd say that pretty much everyone in the program will say that you're kind of matched with maybe a more junior and a more senior role together, but it's been a fun way for everyone to see the world through a different lens and from a different perspective and learn a lot along the way. So
awesome. Thank you. I guess especially with that note, like around, it sounds like there's a lot of staying in touch, being communicative, like smaller groups and larger groups in here. So Alicia, I'd love to hear from you. Like, how do you stay connected to the industry, to each other, especially in a year like 2020, but also not in 2020 times? Like, how does this normally look?
Yeah, sure. It's definitely a collaborative effort. The best way to really get connected is to fill out our membership form and to join our LinkedIn group. We certainly post regular updates to that group, as well as our site, which is womeninstreamingmedia.org. And that said, the conversation around diversity and inclusion really has to happen well beyond the reach of our organization. Like, we want you to start facilitating those conversations internally within your organizations. And we definitely welcome everyone to join in the conversation around and attending our meetups. But we also believe in being very inclusive of men. There are several men who have really been very instrumental in promoting our growth. In fact, when we had our inaugural meetup at IBC in 2017, it was the team over at Streaming Media and other folks, Dom Robinson, that really attended and promoted us on their page and really were instrumental in promoting the growth within our community. So we really want folks to be proactive in their efforts around diversity and inclusion, and we feel like Women in Streaming Media is just another arm or extension of that.
Awesome. So I guess you mentioned like kind of a laundry list of all the amazing things you do kind of in the intro, Diane. I'd be curious, like, are there any high level, like what are like the high level stated goals, like in a nutshell? And then what does like success look like when y'all hit those? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. I think we're still, to some extent, finding our feet a little bit in terms of our organization, but at a high level, it's about meeting other women. It's about educating, providing a source of education for women to continue to grow them and make advancements in their career, and then provide mechanisms for support around mentorship and career advancement. I think we've done a fairly good job with the first and the last one, the program in the middle around providing education and ways that we can help grow the technology expertise or presentation skills or other types of, like, how do you have a conversation with your boss about getting a pay raise, are all things that I would love to incorporate as part of this program. And they're really important to having, women grow and advance in the space and get more visibility. I think we hopefully can start tackling some of those things next year.
Cool. Yeah, just real quick as a follow-up to that. You yourself are an entrepreneur, and you've kind of been through that whole gauntlet. I'm curious, is that kind of an explicit piece of this? Like, do y'all help with the entrepreneurship side of things as well, specifically, or is that just kind of like something you and your mentee work with?
It's not a specific angle that we focused on. I brought to the table a chance for, hey, if anyone ever wants to learn about what my journey has been like starting a company in this space, I'm always more than happy to share. And if anyone wants to DM me on the side in the Demuxed chat, then you'll see me and my puppy in there. But I hope it could turn into something like that. I think that, there's a lot of new perspectives that can be had in this space as well. And I would love to see other women entrepreneurs doing their thing. You know what I mean?
Can I ask what kind of puppy you got? Because I always
Oh my God, she's so cute. She's a little white Maltipoo. She's less than 10 pounds, and she loves to cuddle. So
always the best dog to love cuddly dogs.
That's like Diane.
So if we want to get involved, how do we get involved? If companies out there who are listening to Demuxed, how do we get involved? How do we kind of get partnered, and what does partnership look like on your side?
Yeah, I can take that. Yeah, absolutely. So there are several benefits of partnering with an organization like ours. The first is really, aligning with, we have grown to be a very well-respected diversity organization, and we are dedicated to representing women in our sector. We believe in working with our partners to, as I mentioned before, become an extension of their diversity and inclusion programs by two things. We want to create awareness of a need to actually have a formal mentorship option. I think a lot of companies are committed to mentorship, but they actually haven't developed a mentorship program where they can pair senior leaders or, folks that are just coming into the industry or wanting to take their career to the next level. And that is an area where we've been able to make a huge amount of progress with our mentorship team, which is led by Megan Wagoneer, who serves as the SVP of Americas for VMON, and Nandini Singh, who runs the digital media infrastructure at PBS. And the both of them have really created an amazing mentorship program and have created that awareness of the need to really support the full diversity cycle. The other thing is really building relationships with and recruiting female talent. So I can't tell you how many times over the last year that folks have reached out to me. One very specifically recently, Fastly, Theo Player, and Wowza hosted a webinar on low latency HLS, and they came to me because they wanted a woman, to be a part of the panel. And I was able to look within the network of women in streaming media and make a recommendation of someone who had expertise in that particular area. And she, it was a great match between, her and the other folks that were on the panel. And so we want to build relationships to not just place folks on panels, but to make sure that we have a very healthy pool of talent around the various aspects of video, that we are very engaged at the industry events. And then, the ultimate goal is to create a joint program collaboration and develop it on relevant topics. Like Diane mentioned, like we don't want to limit ourselves. If entrepreneurship is an area where we can guide and help women to advance, then that would be something that we would add to our platform or to our priorities in the future. So we really just, there are a lot of benefits. And I think reaching out to any of us and just starting those conversations, which people have not been shy to reach out. We've had tons of engagement with Google, with folks over at Amazon. Like we've had a lot of conversations. Wowza has been very instrumental. So just continue to do what you're doing. Just connect, stay active, and let's get the conversations going.
Speaking of conversations, I actually just realized I wasn't a member of the channel, but there's also a Women in Streaming Media channel. Or Women in Streaming. So if you just like Control T or like however you do the fuzzy search, Women in Streaming, there's all channel. Is that a good way to stay connected outside of this event? Or email, DM, like is that a decent way for people to start getting involved today?
Do you mean in the video dev?
Yeah.
Channel? Yeah, that's a great way too. But I would definitely suggest that you get involved on the LinkedIn group. We are up to about 1,000 members now, and that's where we're putting the majority of updates. And as I mentioned, we do update major events on our site as well. I must give some kudos to Alessandra Madurowitz, who runs development. Business development over at Zype. She is responsible for all of our marketing efforts and does a great job of just keeping our community aware of what's going on. So, there are a number of areas, but I say the LinkedIn group is definitely the one where most of us sort of live and breathe.
Awesome.
That's great. I just wanted to take one question from Slack, and Gareth phrased it a little bit better. I wanted to ask this as well. Gareth phrased it better than I ever would, but I know it's tiring to ask women how men can be better, but if there's one behavior we can spot and call out, because we have many, what do you think pushes women aside or out of the industry?
I would like to provide an answer. I hear this a lot, which is like, I've said something in a meeting or in front of an audience, and then some dude says the same thing, and everyone's like, wow, that's a great idea. And I'm in a unique position where that doesn't happen too often in my case, but it is something that I've heard so many times that I guess a behavior that I would suggest is seek to understand before being understood. Ask questions if you need to clarify something, because I think it's important to give credit where credit is due in some of these cases. And I know a lot of times it's in these team meetings where, you start to share ideas, and it can be a really great place for people to look more to, potentially the only woman in the room to ask those types of questions. And maybe it's just some lack of understanding or clarity that's needed. So take some extra time to understand everyone around you. And sometimes it can be really intimidating to be in a room of other people and you're the only one. Like, I'll just say that at our inaugural meetup in Amsterdam, I think there were like 50 women, and it was like 3 dudes, and it was hysterical because they all stood like on the outside. And I had to like kind of go over and be like, we're not going to bite you. Like, come over and join us. It's fine. But just imagine that's you every day. So like, think about that, like one woman that's on your team, and be like, oh, wow, maybe this is like a really experience I've not been able to relate to personally ever. What could I do to make that person feel a little more comfortable in this space? So anyways, that's my 2 cents.
I also believe, and so with everything that is going on within our nation over the last year, just around Black Lives Matter and the various aspects of, just supporting folks that are marginalized, I believe that having allies, and, if you can begin to have transparent conversations with the women that are just around you, like, it's like you don't have to reach the world. You could just start in your circle, in your community, of just having conversations with women and saying, what can I do to be an advocate for you? Or what can I do to help you, to listen. And I think in many cases, just having someone who doesn't necessarily have all the answers, but can listen and really hear, and not be dismissive when a woman tells you that they're having an issue in a certain area of, maybe the work life, or, even being mothers and, working from home and having to balance all the various things that life throws at us. I think, if we just have that support structure and folks that can be an ally and advocate for the women, that are smart and brilliant on your teams and in the communities that you work with, to promote them in the workplace and promote them in conferences. That's one of the things that I talked about earlier, was the fact that folks like, streaming media, they've really been instrumental in just getting the word out there and talking about how great our organization was. And that just really served to help us create awareness to our community and help us grow to where we are today. So, be an ally, find 2 or 3 women. I mean, even if it's just one to start out with, that you can just really get behind and be an ally for and speak up for, even when you're in meetings. To echo what Diane said, I think sometimes women, when they're in a room, men will tend to speak over us, or if we're not as, I'm very bodacious, so it's very hard for someone to speak over me. But there are other women that are extremely talented that might not be as vocal as, I am. But they're smart and they have so much to contribute to the conversation. Maybe be quiet sometimes and let them have the floor. Or if you see people in the room that are not necessarily as engaged, be directive to them. Janice, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Or is there a perspective of this that you can provide some insight for? So just, it's not brain surgery. It's very simple things that you can do to be supportive.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for the time. Sorry for the rough start with a minor stream outage right before we started. But thank y'all so much for rolling with the punches and sticking with us there.
That's why we'll have a woman on the production team next year.
There you go.